Good evening. It's the interview, and today I will be holding it. From the 28th till the 30th of October, we had the Euronest 12th ordinary session in Armenia. In order to participate in the sessions, different delegations had arrived to Armenia, including Sergey Lagodinsky, co-chair. Good evening, Mr. Lagodinsky. Thank you very much for accepting the invitation. The discussions were quite diverse in opinion. We heard criticism against Armenia, towards Ukraine. We heard praise for our democracy. We heard about energy security, economy, diversification, democracy. The Yerevan session, how would you assess it?
I think it was a success, and as I said already today, I think we are experiencing something like a Yerevan spring in Euronest. You know probably, and maybe your viewers know this as well, Euronest is a group of 5 Eastern Partnership parliaments: Ukraine, Moldova, Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Georgia. Very diverse bunch of parliaments, and European Parliament on the other side. But we managed this time not only to meet with our Ukrainian, Moldovan, Armenian friends, and also have the biggest ever delegation of European parliamentarians. This never happened before. About 20 of us have arrived. But we also had this time friends from Turkey, our colleagues. And as always, we usually invite Belarusian democratic forces around Tikhanovska. And this time we also had some representatives of Georgian democratic forces in civil society. We can discuss this. This is, of course, a very peculiar political situation. But I think the point is that the fact that we discussed hot issues, that we openly spoke with each other, and at the end agreed on resolutions, on documents, and on certain positions, I think this testifies that this is a very vivid and very lively and living instrument, something that was not always the case. I think Eastern Partnership is experiencing its revival because geopolitics have taught us that this region, but also this group of states, are very important.
I propose in the beginning to speak about the issues of Armenia-EU relations. Then we can go broader and speak about the world. You know that as of the 8th of August in Washington, D.C., Armenia-Azerbaijan initialed a peace agreement. We often hear that the European officials are welcoming it and saying that they are interested in the peace of South Caucasus. But in practice, how much is Europe involved in this process, and how much is Europe interested in South Caucasus?
You probably know that the European position was always very supportive of Armenian perspectives. This has various grounds and various reasons, but we were most supportive about some peaceful solution, and a lot of attempts took place. Well, now this solution was facilitated by the American president. And I will be honest, he's not our favorite politician. I think I can speak for the majority of the European Parliament, but if he achieved something like this, and if something like this can work in practice, and we can have a stability and peace and prosperity in this region, we only welcome and support this. How can we support this? We can support this by working with both parties and encouraging them to contribute to solutions. So we do work, and you know this, the European Union works closely on many issues, including energy issues with Azerbaijan on the one hand. And on the other hand, we encourage Prime Minister Pashinyan and his government to go down that path. And this path is not an easy one. We know exactly, and I talked to people from all sides of the aisle, as they say, and both sides of the aisle. I also heard people from, of course, people from Nagorno-Karabakh. I also heard people from the opposition parties as well. And I know it is difficult for someone who is in a leadership position to go down that path. But our position is that this is the right direction. And we support this, and our support will also be in trying to intensify our collaboration and our economic cooperation with Armenia. And by doing so, this is something that the EU can do very well, stabilizing and creating a space of prosperity and encouraging this way people to live in peace rather than to live in traumas and the very traumatic, and I know this, I can imagine this, very traumatic commemoration of the past.
You mentioned that you also hear the opposition. You may know that the Republic of Armenia has passed a law about launching the process of EU accession. I don't know if the opposition has told you in conversations that they have concerns that Europe does not expect us. This is just a way to leave Russia and go nowhere. As a MP from the European Parliament, can you tell us what Europe thinks about this? Are they ready to accept Armenia? What are the chances of Armenia in general?
Our position and in the European Parliament is that this is a great project and this is a great start. Where this will lead us, even in case of Moldova or in case of Ukraine, even in case of Balkan states, we cannot say for sure when this road ends and how. And you see with Turkey, we have been negotiating for many decades already. And the Turkish partners who came often said that they want some solution and some end of it. So this is a process, and this is an open-ended process with anyone. In Brussels, there is this term merit-based. So I think sometimes it sounds like a little bit at school. I do not look at the candidates as students, and we're not teachers. We have a lot to learn, by the way, from many of those candidates. I mean, look at Ukraine. I think we should be able to learn from them how to defend, how to innovate, etc. However, there are certain rules. And there are certain chapters, so-called chapters, which you open and close. You try to adjust to European standards. You see how things work, whether rule of law continues to be stable in a country. This takes a lot of time. This takes years. Sometimes it takes decades. That's why it's very difficult to say that Armenia will be at some point a member. But I talked with a number of people, including with the Prime Minister himself, but also people around him who support this process. And they say a very wise thing. They say, at the end of the process, we will see whether European Union countries will agree, and we need unanimity for this, will agree with that or not. If they agree, we're happy to be and to have achieved this goal and be a member of the European Union. If they don't agree, then we're happy as well, because this have contributed to our prosperity, to our standards, to our freedom and our democracy. And if this is the outcome, something that from that citizens can benefit, then it's also good. And I think this is a very good approach, because the integration process is not for Europeans. The integration process is something for citizens. They must feel that they have something from this. And I think in most of the countries that I see, also in the Balkan states, the citizens profit from the process as well, and not just from the outcome. Mm. And, I don't want people to have expectations that will be somehow betrayed at the end. That's why it's good to have this process-based approach. And we as Europeans and we as Parliament, we are, especially as a European Parliament, we are very enthusiastic about this. But we never cheer and we never celebrate if someone says we want to go to the European Union. It never happened with no country. And that's why we construct the road together. And let's see how we get there.
Very well. You are speaking about the privileges, the benefits to our citizens, to our country, 500 million market, quite good standards, etc., etc., etc. But the opposition is asking a question. Why does the Europe need us? And they say that this process is just to take Russia out of the region, and we are just an instrument for EU.
I don't think so. I think, yes, there are, of course, new geostrategic realities. This is clear. This is very clear. But at the same time, we want this region to be stable. And this region is stable if, for example, the project of connectivity, something that we are advocating and that we are working with, Black Sea strategy, connectivity, where we want the east-west pathway to connect us also to Central Asia through Armenia. I think these are projects which benefit Armenia and benefit European Union. If we as European Union have a country, an island of stability in the middle of South Caucasus, and it has nothing to do with Russia, it has something to do with stability and freedom. Because for now, Armenia, considering the situation in Georgia, considering the very complex situation with Azerbaijan, Armenia for now is kind of a like-minded model of democracy and of space of freedom. And if we manage to have it stable, if we manage to have it as an active partner, also economic partner with the European Union, this is great for the European Union. So it's not just about pushing Russia away. I mean, Russian influence and Russian presence was here for years and decades. And European Union, maybe we were not happy about this, but this was not the main point. The main point is we want this region to be prosperous, stable, and peaceful. And if this is the way to go about this, then we will go to this together.
Very well. Speaking about Russian influence, one more question. When it comes to the EU-Turkey committee, you are chairing it. You are very well informed about Turkey matters. You very well know that Armenia is very much interested to open Armenia-Turkey border, but we still have the public concern, which says that with this step, Turkey will increase its influence in South Caucasus on Armenia. And again, if Russia leaves, Turkey will take the place which will be detrimental for Armenia. Do you think it is realistic that Turkey's influence in South Caucasus would be so much that it will become a problem for us?
First of all, just to correct you, what you said, I'm not the chair of EU-Turkey committee. This was the case during the last term. Okay. Now I'm the president of the Parliamentary Assembly of Euronest. This is my new function. And but yes, I follow the situation, of course, and I know that opening the border with Turkey will, in the first place, benefit Armenia. Because again, let's look at how the situation looks like now. We have a very unclear situation with Georgia. And we have Azerbaijan, with whom, of course, we would love to have to see the relationship normalizing, but we don't know in which direction things will go. So how do we ensure that Armenia has an access to the rest of the world, physical access? And here we are we're talking about connectivity again. This connectivity, the connection can also go to the south, can also be a people-to-people connection that could increase. It could increase tourism. It could increase trade. You know, I just said it today in the hotel where I am. My window is overlooking Ararat, and it could be, you could actually reach it in 30, 40 minutes because it's so close. But when I looked on Google how to get there, it was 10 hours to get because you cannot cross this border. And this is the same, and much more importantly, for the whole economic traffic, etc. So I don't see how this would benefit Turkey alone. I mean, you have Azerbaijan as your neighboring country, who of course has a very close relationship with Turkey. So the influence and the role of Turkey is already here. And if we can connect also European Union closer with you, then we will have a very good balancing effect that it will not just be Turkey as an actor dominating here. We will have Americans with their role in the peace process also present here, and you will have European Union who will also be present here. So I don't see how this would be something that would benefit any potential moves of Turkey in terms of an aggressive presence in the region.
Շատ լավ, հիմա խոսենք ավելի մեծ պատկերի մասին։
Very well. The bigger picture. You grew up in Russia. You are very well informed, better than the other European officials, what the political system in Russia is. And in your opinion, this war, which doesn't unfortunately end between Russia and Ukraine, do you think there is an opportunity in the near future for it to be resolved? We can see that the EU countries do not have a unified position. Why is it like that?
To be honest, European countries have quite a unified position on this, minus Hungary. Maybe minus Slovakia. We will see how the Czech Republic is going to position itself after the new government will be formed in Prague. But
I'm sorry, but also the interests are different. Poland, Northern Europe, the different interests also.
Yes, but those interests always come together whenever it is about concrete actions. Look at the sanctions packages. Yes, there are discussions before sanctions packages are finalized, but we already have 19, and we were able to agree on all of them. Regarding the help for Ukraine, we have very clear packages that Ukraine can benefit from. Regarding also developing our defense weapons exports, this all takes place. So I don't see European Union. There are many other issues on which European Union are much more ununited and disunified than this particular one. Actually, this war and this aggressive behavior, this aggression by Russia has contributed to solidifying foreign policy of European Union on this particular issue, and also to solidifying our position that we have to produce more defense weapons, that we have to have a defense policy that would be more coherent. So I don't quite agree on this particular point, but your question was whether the end of the war is in sight. It's up for, the way I see it now, it's up for Putin, for President Putin to decide whether he wants this war and this confrontation to stop. He has President Trump with his offer to facilitate in the direction that, first of all, the weapons should stop being employed against Ukrainians. If people will stop dying, if bombarding will stop, then we have a good foundation for a search for a decision. And look at the position of Ukrainians. Ukrainians are signaling again and again that they are ready to talk about certain compromises, even on matters that they didn't want to discuss before. I'm talking about territory and how to talk about territorial solutions. So from that perspective, it is up to the Russian Federation to decide. And if Mr. Lavrov always comes back to the root causes, as they call it, instead of showing flexibility and openness, if it is always about the so-called denazification, which is ridiculous to talk about, denazification, demilitarization, after such an inhumane and genocidal aggression happened against Ukraine, instead of looking at the situation on the ground, and the situation on the ground is that Russia has not advanced after almost 4 years to the degree that Russia thinks a powerful empire could advance. And that means that maybe it's time to stop. It's time to stop violence and to discuss it, especially since Trump has produced a number of offers of giving the platform to discuss. So for now, the decision is in Moscow.
Mr. Lagodinsky, when it comes to Ukraine, do you think that EU is a good, trustful partner?
It's not up to me to decide whether Ukrainians think that EU is a trustful partner. We do our best.
Your opinion.
We do our best. Our Ukrainian partners consider us trustful partners. I think that we should have and could have been more decisive from the very beginning in supporting Ukraine. Then the war would have been maybe shorter because it would have been more clearer that Ukraine can defend itself with our support and also with Western weapons. So from that perspective, we could have been more decisive. But look at how Kiev views European Union, especially after the change in the White House. For Ukraine, after Trump came to power, after the incidents in the Oval Office, after the very volatile position of President Trump on so many issues, Europe is the anchor. You said Europe cannot decide itself and cannot, provide stability. Europe is very stable. Whenever Trump said that he's meeting with Putin and forgets about perspectives of Ukraine, it was European leaders who got together and who said not without Ukraine, and they were successful. So in a sense, Europe is a guarantor of the perspectives of Kiev in this solution.
Գիտեք, ես ինչու եմ սա հարցնում, որովհետև երբ
I am asking this because when Armenia is making steps towards decreasing its dependence on Russia, there's a group in the society, in the public, that are asking, what is it that you want? Do you want Armenia to become another Ukraine, another big war, to rely on Europe and be deceived by Europe, like Ukraine? This is a perception in the public. If you leave Russia and go towards Europe, you may become Ukraine.
I don't think so. Number one, we don't want anything. It's not something that we're imposing on anyone. If Armenian society decides that they want to be a European country, it's great. If Armenian society decides otherwise, we will respect the choice anyway. I think that the main point is that the Armenian society should be an open democracy. And yes, I would prefer it to be a democracy of European type. You know, the so-called liberal democracy with a strong constitution, with strong court and constitutional court, etc. And with a good European-like economy. I don't think it's healthy to be dependent to 100% from a market of a power which is, has proven itself not to be very peaceful and very reliable, as we have seen in the situation of protection of Nagorno-Karabakh. So I think diversification, something that we're talking about as well, is also a good thing. Increase interactions with European Union so that you are not only dependent on one actor in the region. And I think it's also healthy, and this is my private opinion, to have more interaction with Turkey, to have more interaction with Azerbaijan. I think also more interaction with Georgia and European Union. Diversification is now the answer to blackmail that we're seeing again and again from some aggressive powers in the region. So coming back to the issue you said, I don't think it would be healthy to be 100% reliable on Turkey. I don't think it would be healthy to be 100% reliable on Russia, but maybe it's also not good to be 100% reliable on the EU. Become a self-reliable, because diverse, economic, and also defense-wise, self-reliable power.
Այստեղ եւս մի անհանգստություն կա Եվրոպա.
There is one more concern here when it comes to our relations with the European Union. People say that you are moving towards a union that is going through a crisis now. We can recall that in February, VP Vance had a very well-known speech about European Union, and the European officials started speaking more actively that they need to be able to maintain their own security. The critics say that this is a union that cannot protect itself. What about now? What's the phase now of the EU? What do you think? Will the European Union be able to be independent in its security from the United States?
I always say that I advocate I call it a strategic parallelity It's a very nice term that I made up. So we should do things in parallel with the strategy in mind. And the parallel should be, on the one hand, we should continue strengthen NATO, and within NATO continue strengthen the European role, but also encourage United States to continue to work with us. Why? Because there are many elements of defense where we cannot do it on our own. They're called so-called strategic enablers, for example. These are the satellite systems who have a live coverage of what is going on. They are many other strategically important issues and also technical equipment. So, on the one hand, doing that. On the other hand, developing our own strategic enablers. I am one of the rapporteurs on the Space Act of the European Union, and this is what we're trying to do. We want to have in the lower orbit, we have to have our own satellite and our own constellation that would allow us to have intelligence, to have information, to have our own defense, that we're not reliable on Mr. Musk, and that we're not reliable on other American providers like Amazon, etc. The same we should do in the area of innovation, but not just defense. But we will not be able to get rid of it instantaneously. This is a process. But this is a process that is ongoing. We have mobilized, and the Commission have mobilized about 800 billion for our defense program. We are developing SAFE or ReArm program, where we are pouring more money in innovation and development of our defense strategy. Andres Kubilius, who I think was also in this studio or in one of your studios a couple of years ago, he was my predecessor as Euronest president. He is now responsible for synchronizing and developing our defense industry. And we're working on this. And I mentioned it at the beginning. We should learn from countries like Ukraine. We should integrate Ukraine in there, because when we're talking about drones, I mean, who is equipped against drones? We're not very well equipped, but is Russia very well equipped against drones? Their airports are always closed because of some drones flying there. They cannot neutralize it. We are in a new century and a new era where drone technique plays a role, but new defensive drones and the drone wall that we're planning to do on the border of the European Union is something which is very clear. So you're asking, can we defend ourselves now? I think now, yes, because Americans are and will continue to be on our side. They have said that this is the case. Shall we be able to do this in the future on our own? I believe so, because there is a lot of resources and a lot of political will that we are investing into this project.
My last question. On the 7th of June next year, we have parliamentary elections. The political forces are preparing to it, and we many times speak about hybrid threats and outside influence. And Maya Sandu recently spoke about Armenia, saying that he thinks that it's very probable that Russia will use the same tools in Armenia as well. How can the EU support our democracy?
I think at least two things that we can do. We have we have been able to provide strategic support for Moldova, also during the preparation for these elections, and we should do the same with our Armenian friends and partners. We should, number two, encourage also contacts and experience learning with Moldovan. And create platforms where Armenian partners can learn from Moldovan partners on how things could be managed. And number three, I said number two, the three points. And number three is support for Armenian independent media. This is very important, and this is something that we are saying to Marta Kos, who is the Commissioner for Neighborhood, that we're saying to European Endowment for Democracy, where I'm also on the board. We should be watching this region, and we should be investing into this region, not in terms of imposing something. Again, I'm coming back to this issue. We are not imposing anything, but enabling for free media to continue and to flourish, and this free media should also be professional. I think this is something that we forget very often. It's not enough to have a free media who is spreading lies and disinformation, or he is looking just for clicks. No, the professional media, like yourself, like public media in Europe, is a very complex and a very difficult animal. And this is an animal that should be organized and should be co-financed also by European money. And I hope very much that we will be able to achieve these goals in the upcoming months. But what is important? It's not just about disinformation, and it's not just about influence from outside. It is also about enabling the government to deliver to the citizens. And I say the same in Germany, where we also have problems with upcoming populism. Our governments in all democracies have to deliver. They have to explain to our people, to our citizens, why it is worth investing their votes into democracy. And this is something where European Union will also help to Armenia with resources, with knowledge on how to stabilize the economy. We just had a business roundtable, which I co-organized on the margins of Euronest, where we brought European businesses to discuss with us, what do we need so that European businesses can invest more in Armenia. And this is very tangible. It's not about some lofty concepts. It's very tangible. Companies like Siemens or others were on one table, and we were discussing what is needed, because this is needed for citizens. They will feel it. And I think this is something that we should...
And what was needed?
Very specific things, and things about which I, for example, as a European citizen, didn't think. For example, visa liberalization and support for visas, so that it's easier and faster for people to get visa if they go to collaborate and cooperate with businesses from European Union. A very easy thing. And there were ambassadors from European countries there, and they explained to us how they are improving this and speeding up the process. So things like that, or for example, centers where it would be explained to Armenian businesses how to adjust better in a good and fast way to European standards in order to be able to export goods easier to the European market. Also, something that you don't think about if you deal with Space Act, So these are the things. They're very concrete, they're very specific, and they help people and they help the economy here. And I would say, apart from disinformation, it's a very important topic. But the not less important topic is we need to start delivering to the people. And when people see it's worth living in a democracy of pro-European type, I'm sure they will make a right decision in 1 year.
Thank you very much. I was speaking to Sergey Lagodinsky. Thank you very much. See you later.